All right, well, I think let's go ahead and start in. If others are able to join us, that'll be great. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Beautiful Monday afternoon, as Wes noted. Hopefully, you've all been hard at it and are into the swing of things this week. Really, we're to that point now where we're getting down to the business and the implementation of what we've put together in the state water plan. And I know just from my recent experience, the state water plan has come up several times now. Recently we've had some legislative actions tied to water reuse recommendation that came right out of the state water plan recommendations. Just last week, I had an inquiry from the governor's office saying, hey, the governor wants to know what are the issues on Lake Michigan. Could you get us something together pretty quickly? And, I was able to turn around in the next minute and basically say, please refer to section 10 of the state water plan that clearly identifies the current issues and even has, recommended actions, recommendations. So, again and again, I think we'll have more and more of that as we go forward and as more people begin to understand and realize what was put together for them. Want to be sure to have everybody remember April 19th, and Wes, maybe we'll get into this as part of the other agenda, but we do have our legislative outreach happening the morning of April 19th. We will be at the State Museum right there by the Capitol, just south of the Capitol. So a nice venue to have that kind of a quick legislative briefing and breakfast for the elected officials. I know that I believe Director Kim from IEPA and the Director of Ag and the Director of DNR will be there for certain to make part of the welcome and provide that endorsement and support for the state water plan. So you're welcome to join us there. It'd be great as many of the topic leads as possible could be there. To be there and have some breakfast and really just give us the opportunity to share with legislators. And then immediately following that, we're going to pick up our table and move a few hundred feet to the north and set up in the rotunda of the Capitol building. That morning, we've reserved space so that we can have a table and our displays set up there in the Capitol the morning of the 19th to again be able to share about the state water plan and the resources available to those legislators and staff that were unable to attend our breakfast event. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Wes and Tara to take it from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lauren. So first order of business, I want to make sure that everybody should have received a copy of the minutes. The January 9th, our last meeting minutes, they were emailed out on March 29th. And I guess I will just open it up to make sure there's no last minute comments or changes to the meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments or amendments to the last meeting minutes? And due to the silence, I guess I will look for a motion to approve and second the meeting minutes, if I can get anybody to do that.
So moved, Michael Woods.
Moved by Michael Woods. Is anybody second?
Chris Davis, I'll second.
Chris Davis from EPA seconds. So all in favor say aye. Or
Aye.
give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Okay, and any opposed, the same sign? Not hearing any. It looks like the meetings are accepted as is. So as you see on the screen, we have the agenda set out. It looks like we've already kind of Lauren has addressed the welcome, and we've already started talking a little bit about the Soil and Water Conservation District Roundtable and other outreach impacts. We'll go in and go an overview on the recommendation implementation status. So thank you all. I got almost everybody responding back on the recommendations. So we got a good start on what the implementation of those recommendations look like. We had a discussion at last meeting about putting a prioritization in the section recommendations. So we'll talk briefly on that and really get into the next meeting. So hopefully, I think we're all looking forward to maybe a slightly shorter format for the meetings and just kind of make each other aware of some of the milestones that we've accomplished in the state water plan and just kind of get an update. So with that, I will move on to the next slides. We've approved the meeting minutes. So just a quick update on the past events. I know, so we've given presentations at the U of I to a group of students there. There's been a presentation to UMR-BA on February 28th. I know there's been some other presentations. I believe Steve Altman, I think you presented in late March. I apologize, I didn't get that format. Steve, where was it that you presented on the 20th to?
I'm trying to remember. So much happened since last. Let's see. Boy. Oh, River, 29th was at the Rivers Coordinating Council.
Ah, the 29th. Okay. Thank you, Steve. And just an update on some other future events we have, just an outreach. Myself and Wei Han are going to be presenting at the Illinois Groundwater Association on Friday, just giving an overview on that. We, as Lauren mentioned, have the legislative breakfast on the 19th, and that looks like we are presenting at the annual Soil and Water Conservation District Association of the Soil and Water Conservation District in July. So we've definitely moving to get the word out, and it sounds like we've made some great strides in doing so. I guess, Lauren or Michael, do either of you have any more details about the annual meeting that you would like to dive into? Otherwise, I can kind of give a little bit of a brief synopsis of what's going on.
I yield to you, Wes.
So,
Likewise.
oh, okay. Well, I think I'll kind of build on what Lauren, not try and be redundant here, but as he mentioned, we are going to be starting off with the breakfast at the State Museum there. We are inviting all topic leads to come and participate in that, so please mark that on your calendar if you're a topic lead. We're also inviting all agency directors as well. We have just a brief agenda, kind of giving a few opening comments from the directors. We also will be giving a kind of a quick overview of the state water plan and what it contains, kind of a truncated version of our public outreach number 3 that we'll be sharing with any legislators. And Michael, I'm not sure if you know if we've gotten a starting response. I think we've just sent out invitations. We're starting to see those roll in. Do you have anything to that effect?
I believe you're correct. If I remember right, I think Terry had sent something out that she had a few people started to respond with their RSVPs, but I don't recall the latest data.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And I guess once we wrap up that event, we'll be there for a little over an hour, I believe, and then we'll move over to the Capitol building where we'll have essentially a table set up, and we will be there for the remainder of the morning until about noon. There's a couple of you that I've talked with about kind of helping out and being there to share some of the initiatives we have going on with the State Water Plan Task Force. Again, if you have an interest in attending either of those, please reach out to me. We need a head count for the breakfast, obviously, and we want to make sure that we have a good turnout for the Capitol building, but also we probably don't need too many people, as it'll probably be a crowded space. So we're just coordinating that right now. So again, I believe I've sent out a couple of emails to that effect, but if you haven't responded and still wish to, please go ahead and send me an email and let me know of your interest there. And I guess I will open it to Lauren. Do you have any additional comments you'd like to make regarding the legislative breakfast?
No, just that, yeah, having the leadership there, and it's kind of an on the fly event as those things go. We could have 3 legislators, we could have, 60 legislators. And so it's kind of difficult. We just want to use it as an opportunity to provide that exposure and explain what's going on. So the more the merrier that can make it and make it appear as it's a big deal, which it is. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Michael, do you have anything else you want to add to regarding the event?
No, I think you did a perfect overview. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Is there, I guess, any questions or comments about the Soil and Water Roundtable or any of these events or any other opportunities that are coming up for public outreach? Just kind of unmute yourself and feel free to speak up.
Yeah, this is Lauren. I was just going to add on that, obviously this has, an ag kind of flavor to it, this outreach session, and with the soil and water conservation districts, but within your own, realm of what you do as part of the programs that you run, doesn't mean that we can't have other similar events related to help outreach to the constituents in the various fields and topic areas of the state water plans. So, this certainly has, focused on legislators, and with that kind of a soil and water conservation district sponsor, but there's, we have certainly open to sharing the same message with other constituents from other bents. So thank you.
And Lauren, I believe we received an inquiry about potentially doing something similar up in the northern area to the legislators up there, maybe holding an event. I'm not sure if you have anything more to that. I haven't heard anything other than the initial inquiry.
Right. I don't have any details to that yet.
I was just going to add on to that, Lauren West, that definitely even with the SWCD folks, we have 97 soil and water conservation districts across the state, and each of them have a very distinctively different, approach that may impact their local community. So some of them may be in more urban populations. So if any of the topic and section leads that believe that there's a connection with SWCDs, please reach out and we can help navigate those as well. And as Wes mentioned, there was some expressed interest from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Chicago to possibly host something for those group up in the Chicagoland area. We'd love to see that messaging be able to showcase that it's not just ag.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the additional information, and Lauren as well. With that, and not hearing any other questions on the public outreach, I guess I'll pause just a second to make sure there's nobody else who had any comments or questions. Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on and keep things moving right along. So just a little update on where we are with our implementation of the recommendations. As you may recall, we had a total of 147 recommendations in the report. Based on the feedback and comments I've received from the topic leads, we've got about 26 of those underway. So just under a third of those have been started. And with the remaining alternatives still not started yet, that leaves overall progress around 6%. And that is with 10 of the 13 sections giving updates. I know sometimes these are hard to get out and we're all pulled in multiple ways, but if you haven't had the opportunity to provide those updates, feel free to send those to me whenever you get. Again, a couple weeks before our next meeting, we will continue to ask for an update. Hopefully it'll be a lighter lift as much of the information will already be filled out. But again, we just want to show that we're providing progress, and I anticipate we'll be providing this information on the overall State Water Plan Task Force website just to show that we are continuing to make progress. So want that transparency out to the public. We will also be providing the detailed table that you all helped fill out on the website as well, in case they're looking for a certain recommendation or they want to see how things are moving along holistically as well. So again, feel free to chime in and raise your hand if you have any questions about anything that we're going over. Otherwise, I assume that everybody's nodding their head and want to keep moving. All right. So one thing that we did want to do is just do a quick round robin of the topic leads as far as, you know, if there's any significant milestones or anything significant to report. This could be completing a task. This could be a significant step on one of the recommendations, or maybe even that there's an interest in adding a new recommendation, start tracking that as a part. So as you can see, we'll just kind of move through this list here to see if anybody has anything, but you should now be seeing the Excel spreadsheet. So I'll just kind of walk through topic lead by topic lead to see if there's any significant updates. So I don't think I saw, oh yeah, Michael Brown, you are up. Do you have any updates or any comments you want to make regarding the water quality section?
Nothing really significant right up as of now.
Okay.
I mean, we do have that piece that was alluded to earlier on the reuse side, and we're looking on that, but that's not even in our section. But yeah.
All right, sounds good. Okay, I think I did see Dave is on. Dave, do you have anything on the climate section?
No, other than initial discussions and work on IWIC. That's been the major effort during the past few months.
Okay, thank you, Dave. We'll go on to Lauren on the integrated water management section.
Sure. Thanks, Wes. A couple of things. First of all, with the Integrated Water Information Center, but really the entire state water plan, we've been kind of opened the door, if you will, with the Lieutenant Governor's office. And I know Steve Altman, I think, is on the call this afternoon, and he serves, I know, as DNR's representative on the Lieutenant Governor's Rivers Council coordinating group there. And a presentation was given on the state water, or on the state water plan and the task force. And so we've really been encouraging the Lieutenant Governor, or at least opened that door at this point, to say, hey, maybe the Lieutenant Governor's office, because of your chairing of the coordinating council, should seek to take some ownership of the state water plan and get behind some of these recommendations and help endorse and kind of be that executive branch kind of tie-in to the water plan. And so haven't really resolved anything there at this point, but work to open that door and begin those discussions with the Lieutenant Governor's office, not only for the the state water plan, but then the Integrated Water Information Center that's included in the recommendations, as well as an area that fits well with the coordinating council mission, and seeking for her, her and her office to perhaps engage there to help advance that particular item. Steve, do you have anything you want to add in on that before I move on?
No, I don't really have anything to add. I think it's a good point to kind of, with the document being a good kind of an anchor point to when they start asking questions. It's good to have, like, the folks that are on the coordinating council have a place to go to kind of see what was going on in the state water plan. We had talked about it quite a bit up until we had about a 6-month break. but I think it'll be a good start. And when we start
I'm
having
good.
the discussion, we can always point to that.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Steve. The other thing we've been doing as well is somebody, Michael, are you mute? Thank you. We've also started working on trying to figure out or putting the right resources together to perhaps start working on an executive order, which was to go with our fund and support the State Water Plant Task Force. And that's really where, I think I would like the task force to go, is in a more formalized recognition of that, the water issues of the state. And so as various water issues come to our attention, either from, our constituent groups or each other, or via legislation that might pop up, that we become that centralized entity that can be used to evaluate and provide some leadership on where we believe a particular action or a recommendation or a program should go related to that. And so that's where we would like to have an executive order that more formalizes the group, and then more importantly sets up the opportunity to then seek annual appropriations for each of the agencies involved to help give us a line item or a pay code, if you will, to charge time to as a legitimate coming together and collaborating of state agencies and programs on water related issues. So we've initiated that, hopefully more to come on that very soon. On our, prioritizing funding for water system improvements, DNR is working to do some interviewing and hiring of staff that will really be able to take kind of a lead on advancing that recommendation. So things are happening to provide at least the capacity to be able to move on that recommendation. We have touched base with IEMA on our recommendation to expand the mitigation action group that's chaired pretty much by IEMA. And so we've reached out to them to begin those discussions to say, hey, how do we best go forward to expand that group per this recommendation? And sync with that, we're also looking into more of the methodology of how we as an agency define our, what is a disadvantaged community and how do we consistently apply that across several programs. And so a little bit of work has been done on that recommendation as well. And so I think that covers the 7 that we had on this table. So I'll turn it back over to you, Wes. Thank you. Unless there's any questions for me.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of make mention that if anybody has any questions or comments, just feel free to chime in and unmute and just speak up. But one thing that I will say on one of Lauren's recommendations, the task force officially funding and supporting, officially defining that would be kind of critical. Right now, we don't have a set structure on who is a technical voting member, or if we have a set representatives. Is that defined by, one per agency? Is that based on the topic leads, and maybe it's defined there? So I see that could be something that would be a significant talking point in the future for us as we kind of try to solidify how the task force would officially operate. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we try to garner support for that initiative. And with that, I think I see Gary is on the line. Gary, do you have any updates for the long-term funding?
Hey Wes, this
Gary.
is Todd Reddick at the IEPA. Gary may, have been pulled away from his office a little bit. I can provide a little bit of an update. I'm just sort of back helping out the Bureau of Water on this and several other projects. There were 2 recommendations. We obviously support both of them. The difficulty with really the both of them is that we don't have the ability to require, like the asset management systems discussed in number 4. from an authority standpoint, we don't have the ability to require it. We do encourage it. We discuss it with communities. We try to get as many communities as possible to utilize it, because it does give them much better information to manage their systems. But we have to sort of work within a award system in the SRF rather than strictly authority-wise. And I bring up the authority thing because the task itself says mandate that. And I don't know if we really have the authority to mandate at this point. The second one, that is a bit of an ongoing project for us. We are trying to find several different tools to allow us to either gather or accept data in more electronic format, so that we can be more efficient with our analysis and sort of storage and retrieval of all of those data. But it requires us working with DoIT, and that hasn't been the fastest process, and that's no criticism of DoIT. It's just I think it's a resource issue. But that's what we are working towards, that, trying to accomplish some of those things. So anyway, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, for stepping in there. And yeah, and just a kind of more of a general comment for everybody is that if we have some of these recommendations that may see some changes over time, maybe we find that mandate is not the best path forward by pushing legislation, that instead we want to make a more of a opportunity and something that we're just promoting instead of mandating. We'd probably just want to reflect that sometime in the tracking that we have here, so that we can show that we do have progress. I just if we see something that can't be accomplished, we'll want to update this table somehow, showing that we have that we can make progress on it in some fashion, or if it's no longer a valid recommendation, maybe it's the case that we strike it from the recommendation table. So just something to keep in mind to make sure that we're still, we don't have any recommendations just kind of get lost or dropped or forgotten about. Water sustainability, Wei is not able to be on. He's in training, so I'm going to just kind of speak in on his behalf. Making some good progress there. We got a new contract going on with State Water Survey that's going to address a couple of these. One, getting nearly close, a nice GIS exhibit that Walt Kelly and his team they're working on to help us implement. So hopefully we'll be able to show that off in a future meeting, just as a 30-second snapshot of what that is. So that's probably the big key that we have going on. We also, I think, deferred the evaporation study to contract out further a couple of years, but that's pretty much all we have. I think Lake Michigan is not on. Lauren, I don't think you have any updates on behalf of Lake Michigan.
Not at the moment. I know that that Anya had another commitment there. Let me just look at them real fast here and see. Well,
Yeah, she did.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say she did apologize. She wasn't able to get the table. I did hear back from her, and she will be getting a table update for us shortly.
A couple of things I guess I would update the group on in terms of this. We are like improving the water allocation reporting and so forth. We do have some new staff coming on here in the next week or two that we are going to work to have start in on addressing some of those, or how we go forward on the allocation reporting perspective, looking at that and how we can continue to advance efforts to get to improved reporting. We have same with updating the rules. That same individual and folks that we're bringing on will dive into some of those actions there. The implement water allocation review fees, that did end up as a bill a little prematurely. I don't think we were quite ready for it to become legislation, but it did. And one of the things that did was really show us who stepped forward in favor or against such review fees for that program and associated with that recommendation. So that will now help us figure out how to better do some outreach to work with those groups to turn them into advocates instead of adversaries for that program. So I guess some work has happened to that extent as well out of that recommendation. There are some of these others that are kind of ongoing with the coastal resilience. Obviously, the 8 states together signed on to an agreement with the Chicago Core to advance coastal resiliency evaluations and really serve as a base point or a springboard for future resiliency actions along our Lake Michigan coastline. So definitely work happening there. And I think I will leave it at that for the moment as an update on Lake Michigan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lauren. We'll go ahead and move over to Tara with flood damage mitigation.
Sure, thanks, Wes. The first item that we've been working on, like the water supply, we're working with State Water Survey to get them under contract to perform some of these studies or development of some of these tasks. So my first one was to update the rainfall modeling with future implications, and that as soon as we can get the contract signed, should be ready to get started. We've got the players on board, and the same principal investigator that did Bulletin 75 will be working on this as well. So that all sounds good. Hydraulic model database, same thing. State Water Surveys this year is going to go ahead and get the database started and then pull in all the State Water Survey models that they have completed. And then over the next few years, we plan to add OWR's models as well as any public and any other entity models, recognizing some just might be links. But anyway, that one is moving forward. Item 3, Glenn, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but the 2D hydraulic modeling, I wasn't sure if you had anything to report with respect to that effort.
Well, Tara, we're just starting our yearly negotiations with FEMA regarding what the water survey can do as a cooperating technical partner with FEMA. We're looking at the Kaskaskia. Well, previously we've been funded to look at the Kaskaskia watershed as sort of a base level engineering approach, looking for that as an instrument to determine where more detailed studies on the tributaries, not the main stem, but the tributaries would be funded for future data development in the years to come. We're doing a lot of 2D modeling in the Cache River watershed in the southern part of the state and some other pieces and parts that are associated with our FEMA projects. In a lot of cases, we're actually running some 2D models as to inform the 1D analysis that would end up being the regulatory product as the it's an introduction of trying to understand what's happening in the 2D world and then translating that into a 1D instrument. But as far as non-FEMA work when it comes to 2D modeling, we haven't instituted any additional studies at this point, although that's something I think Tara, you and I and Steve Altman and others maybe can have some discussions about.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. We are proceeding again on our items 4 and 5, inundation mapping and the SAFER website. And we've been doing some Silver Jackets projects with the Corps and other partners, and those are continuing, and we are trying to get funding and projects moving for the next few years on those 2 items. Item 6, we wanted to wait for the integrated management to develop the criteria so that we could identify some of those communities, but that was good news to see that that is moving forward. And once we get that information, we can move forward. Just a reminder, some of the recommendations that each group had were duplicate. So maybe look in the report and see if any of your recommendations were duplicated, because if I'm saying that there's progress being made on one of mine and it matches yours, you just want to make sure that we're coordinating on those. The rest of my items, I think we need to have a committee meeting and find out the status of where we're going with some of those. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Tara. I'll scroll down here to aquatic and riparian habitat. I don't see Brian. Brian, are you on? I don't see unless you're on a call-in number.
I think he indicated he was unable to attend.
That's right. Yes. Thank you for the reminder, Tara. Okay. Next, we'll go on ahead to Steve with water use law and regulations.
Yes, primarily we've been looking at water reuse right now. There has been a bill. It's passed the House a couple weeks ago. We had a good conversation with the EPA a couple weeks ago with looking at some of the hurdles that would go forward with if this bill would go all the way to be passed. It's the rulemaking is very complex for it. I think it could cause a lot of hurdles. There may be some simplification of the bill just to remove the prohibition on water reuse and leave it at there, and then give EPA some time to breathe. Now, the person that's been working on this bill, Sharon Waller's been working with the legislator from the House. There's a lot that she's learned about the process, so I think that's the angle she's going for right now. So I haven't looked to see where it's actually sitting in the Senate yet, but we're just kind of wait and see where it goes.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
This is Lauren. I think one issue or one comment I was going to add in on that is that, there's kind of two avenues for the water reuse, and one is, non-portable, and the other is, potable water. And so there's a lot different hoops to jump through if you're going for actually potable water. And so to me, being able to maybe break out the non-portable water reuse and look at that might have a greater chance for a faster success, perhaps, than going the full trying to treat water for drinking purposes. So I think there's some opportunity there for further discussion. That's the only comment that I made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. We'll move on to the navigation section. Brian McCoy, if you are, I think you saw you on. Are you there? Brian, I see that you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything on my end.
Wes, if he can't chime in, I'll start and then he can add into it. But as far as the infrastructure, we just recently announced our National Highway Freight Program, which was it's funded at $200 million, and 30% of that can be used for intermodal and rail and ports. And so we just announced there was six port projects: America Central Port, Illinois International Port District, Savannah, Kaskaskia, and several of those got more than one project. Also, through our state planning and research funding, we did award a project down at America Central Port for a ferry boat system plan, and then also at the Heart of Illinois Regional Port District, a port master plan. And so, so we are making some headway in reducing the capital needs at several of the ports. On top of that, previously we had $150 million for the Rebuild Illinois program, and that was at 13 different ports, and those are all in different stages of development. And so again, we're whittling that down. And Brian, you available yet? Yes, he's still not. But anyway, so we're tracking that. We want to do another capital needs assessment to determine what additional projects that we haven't been able to fund or program, and then also with the rebuild, that program is near its end.
Can you hear me yet?
Yeah, not right now we can, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Hey,
I'll
found
let,
figured
I'll let you jump in.
So yeah, so what we got, thanks BJ for giving that roll up for the project. So we got we have the 10 recommendations. We do identify 2 of them as completed 100%, and that is my onboarding. Again, I'm Brian McCoy. I was onboarded as a marine transportation program planning specialist with IDOT, and so that's the start of the section for marine transportation section for IDOT, and as well as we completed the beneficial use of dredge material. Was published in November 30th, 2022. Our ongoing efforts are to ensure that stakeholders are aware of the beneficial uses and where those sites would be, and make sure that they consider those beneficial use when they seek projects that's associated, that's close to where those stockpiles are. So that's pretty much all I had for the updates. A lot of the other information we have here is just ongoing recommendations and further analysis of further work on these recommendations. Did you have anything additional to add, BJ?
Yeah, the only thing else I would mention is that we have had a little bit of coordination with some of the districts regarding bridge clearance sites. So as they begin to do preliminary analysis for bridge replacements, that they at least take into consideration potential container on barge operations as they move towards the Chicagoland area. So that's about it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, BJ and Brian. Appreciate the update and making us look bad by having not only 1 but 2 already completed. So, thanks. All right, we'll move over to Michael Woods. Michael, I see you're still muted.
Sorry about that, Wes and team at computers, right? My most significant finding was that I've been negligent in fulfilling my responsibilities. So I apologize. Wes brought this to my attention today. I am expeditiously trying to get this updated. So I apologize to the group and for being negligent in my getting this completed. But we are moving forward with trying to get everything outlined from this point forward.
No worries, Michael. I think we're all scrambling a bit to get these wrapped up and show the updates that we have. So again, just a reminder to anybody, if you haven't gotten an update in, just feel free to send it to me whenever. We'll get an update on the website. Not a big deal. All right, we will see Laura Kiefer. Do you have anything on data management you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, for the stream gauge assessment, we're pulling together a team to figure out how to try to figure out a scope and how to proceed with formulating a proposal to have this assessment done. For other people who don't know, that the Water Survey has done this twice before, and I think the previous one is 15 years old, something like that. But we do want to be mindful about seeing if there's anything different that needs to be done towards this assessment. So we'll be not only reaching out to the people who participate on this committee, but other folks in the task force to make sure we're not missing anything about potential uses or needs that people are having, so that we can be complete in a proposal scope. And then we'll have to determine who's going to fund this, or agencies, plural, kicking in something into the kitty to have this assessment done. And this assessment will hopefully be able to lead into the second recommendation here about possibly developing a stream gauge cooperative between all concerned people that use the stream gauges for the many purposes that we'd have in the state, and see where then this assessment could be rather informative of how such a consortium could move forward and really benefit everyone by leveraging everything. But that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you for the update, Laura. And I don't see Seth on unless they are calling. Anybody from the recreation group that could speak to any of these? Not hearing any. I did notice we had a couple of individuals call in. I was just curious if there'd be a chance that we could find out who that is, just because we usually like to note who's in attendance. So there's a phone number that ends in, it's a 217 and ends in 18. Whoever's on that line, could you let us know who that is, just so we know who's all in the meeting?
This is Yufeng Lin from IWRC. Thank you.
Yufeng, okay, thank you. And then there is also a 217 number that ends in 93. And they're muted right now, so I'm not sure. I forget if what the command is to unmute on the phone. Off the top of my head, I don't know it, to be honest. But you can also, well.
This is Gary Bingenheimer. I'm the 93 number.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead. That is all the recommendations and status. I guess, does anybody have any questions, comments about this section at all?
Hey, Wes, can you move back up to long-term funding for a sec?
Okay.
Okay, so for item 6, for the adopt technology, I just wanted to make a note that that really was for all agencies, not just EPA. So I know once you guys get going, it makes sense to focus on one agency at a time, but just make note that that is, even though EPA is leading that effort, it is for all agencies to consider different ways to be more efficient with using technological advancements. So those are things, as you're going through your recommendations, maybe go back to the report just as a reminder. A lot of times the task lead isn't even necessarily always going to be doing that work only. So just remember that there's other agencies and stakeholders and other people involved. That was just one note, and I had a second one. Maybe, Wes, we can talk about this in a future call, but I noticed a lot of people didn't fill out funding needs, and I know a lot of those are still under development. But I just was curious what other people, I had a few questions when I filled in mine, so if you wanted to go to mine's yellow, Wes. So I was trying to allocate which fiscal year to get funding, and that's just something we need to consider at some time. But we might want to denote whether it's an annual or a one-time kind of funding when you fill in that category, once you know how much each one of your recommendations are going to be. So those are things you might need to think about as you're developing this as we move forward. And I know for my group, I'm going to have a bigger table than this for my internal tracking. And one of those things that I need to have a better understanding is what is required for that funding. Is it really just staffing to support a new program? Or is it, when we do a report, is it for that report? So I think it might be a good way. I guess I'm just reminding others that you might need to think besides just your agency, there might be other agencies that need funding. So I'm just pointing out things that I was thinking about when I filled mine. And Wes, I guess my main question to you is there are some programs that we actually just recommended continued funding. So if it's continued funding, is that a funding need? So it gets sort of complicated. So do you have any ideas on that one?
I can give my 2 cents, and then Lauren or others can weigh in as well. I tried to provide a little bit of example in this. So, if it's contractual amount for like a study or something, usually just put the total. I didn't break out by fiscal year, so I don't know if that's really needed. I did mention if it's, an annual amount or if it's something in that regards to just trying to note it in some way. If it's something that's an existing program and continue funding, I see this funding needs as just that, and I'll stress the word needs. It's beyond what we currently have. So if it's hiring another staff, is it just because we haven't backfilled the position, or is it that there's not enough GRF right now to cover that staffing level? So, you know, if the funding's already there, then we don't really need to ask for it. If it's a new funding item, then maybe we need to have it listed. And I'll defer to other people's opinion, but that'd be my vote for how we would want to monitor that. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments?
That helps me, Wes, and that's the way I was hoping it would go. So good answers.
Boy, you guys are making it easy on me. Okay, any other comments or questions on the recommendation table before we move on to our next agenda item? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead to the next one. So this is something that I believe we started discussing at the end of our last meeting. I think Laura Kiefer actually recommended that we start adding this priority table at the end. So I think I've overlooked adding that in the table. So just be aware that the next table, I'll go ahead and add in that priority, saying that, you know, because we know we can't start all of these at once, this may help the public understand what order they may see these implemented to some degree. Sometimes it's funding related, even though it's a higher priority. If we don't get funding, that may help kind of clarify that, you know, while we have, you know, a top priority, there's not the funding, so that's why it's not a further moved along in the percent completion. We'll say if you can provide a percent completion, if you've started, please do that numerically. That just allows us to help kind of track our progress as a whole. And also, if you have any idea about the estimated completion date, fill that in if you can. Know that the whole idea was to maybe implement these recommendations between now and maybe the next 8 years or so. So that's why you'll see on these kind of the latest date I have set is the end of the calendar year 2030, and that's when we would assume that we kind of retake up updating this report. So I guess at a minimum, you know, it may be beneficial just to throw in that date unless you think that there's an opportunity to complete the initiative prior to that. So just a couple things. Again, if you have any other questions on the table, we did want to have the task contact. It's not always the same as the topic lead. In this case, it is, but these can differ, particularly if you have a committee that's working on implementing a recommendation and one of the committee members is really the lead on that single recommendation. So unless there's any other comments, we'll go on to the next thing, which is really just looking at a future meeting. So like I said, I think these meetings will move a little quicker. So right now, we have our next meeting tentatively set for July 10th. So I guess if you don't mind taking a look at your schedules and seeing how that fits in, that is the Monday following 4th of July week. 4th of July falls on a Tuesday of the previous week. And then we have it set for the 10th. I think Mondays have worked well, and then we'll just stick with this afternoon as people are often playing catch up after being out for the weekend in the morning. So is there any concerns with July 10th? Okay, not hearing any. We'll keep July 10th at 1:30. And I apologize. I have this list as in person for some reason, but it's my understanding. I'll get Lauren to confirm that we were looking at maybe having the in-person meeting for the October meeting. Lauren, is that what we kind of decided? I believe try and do, as previously mentioned, we wanted to try and maybe do one meeting a year in person, and that would maybe be the October meeting.
Yeah, I would still support that recommendation if the rest of the task force is in agreement.
Anybody have any comments regarding an in-person meeting in what would be the third meeting of the year, usually the October meeting?
I think that would be very useful, although I'm sure there are some people that won't be able to make it. Will there also be a possibility of phoning in?
Dave, whenever we were meeting in person, we always did have the phone in option. So I guess I anticipate doing that. I will say that there was some technical difficulty. Sometimes it was hard to hear coming through the phone. So we'll see if we can maybe resolve that. I'm not sure if we can get a better microphone or something, but I know we've had that technical issue of not being able to really hear very well all entities at the meeting in person, as some people sit further away. But we'll see what kind of hardware we have at our disposal to maybe alleviate that technical issue.
Wes, I would, this is Michael Woods. I would be more than glad to offer up Department of Ag for that meeting. We have a wonderful room that can connect both virtually and in person, and we overcome all of those technical differences that may happen with other places. We have a great source. More than glad to offer the Department of Ag up.
That sounds great, Michael. Sounds like we'll probably be reaching out to you to that effect.
Sounds great.
We'll have that information at the next meeting. So just I will kind of throw it out there. As you can see, if we continue our rotation, October 9th, just kind of keeping to that second Monday of the month in the rotations is Columbus Day. So I guess I could propose that we move it forward to the 2nd. We can move it back to I think we talked about moving it back to the 16th is what I have tentatively shown, or that Megan has tentatively scheduled. So is there any concern with having the meeting on the 16th? And just so you know, it is National Bosses Day, so I guess I got to bring Lauren something that day.
Yeah, the Krispy Kreme donuts would be great, and they're hard to share virtually. I guess, Michael, if you could check on the availability of the 16th, and we would use the 2nd as our fallback if for some reason that room is unavailable on the 16th at 1:30.
Absolutely. I will get that checked into and report back to you. You're talking about October 16th, correct?
Correct.
That is correct. Yep.
All right. Yep. I will get that looked into right away.
Okay, I guess I will kind of open it up to the group regarding primarily if there's any topics that we want to cover with the next agenda. I also kind of love to hear your feedback on if this is a good kind of standard format for the meeting. We're right at about an hour. I'd like to kind of keep it there if possible. I know we used to have up to 2-hour meetings, but those tend to go long. So I welcome any feedback on how this meeting went, or any agenda items to include for our July meeting.
Wes, I'm kind of wondering if, I like the hour to do this, and then maybe for the in-person meeting, we should plan on 2 hours, but having maybe some, I don't know, program presentations or things that, other agencies are doing that might be nice to hear what's going on elsewhere. Just, make it a little more meatier, I guess, with information.
So maybe
Information
an
sharing, I guess.
opportunity to spotlight a couple of initiatives that have seen significant progress, maybe.
Yeah, or if, we used to have quick agency reports, just something they know that's coming down the line that everybody should be aware of that might be outside the scope of the water plan, but just those opportunities just to share info, and face to face that way too, I guess.
Well, I will say there, times as this in each meeting, if any agencies have any projects coming up that would benefit from collaboration across other state agencies, this would be a great time to kind of have an open discussion or open agenda for anybody who has anything that thinks that is would benefit from the other agencies.
I guess, Wes, this is Lauren. I have an example. I'm not sure that we want to take time today, but there's pending legislation out there right now that wants to offer incentives for, I think, engineers in particular to like pay off student loans and so forth as an incentive, as a hiring incentive. At some point, I'd be interested to know for other, engineering and other professions across the state agency programs, what agencies of other enticements or things that other agencies might be looking at to enhance our recruiting potential and opportunities. So I just throw that out as an example of something that, it's kind of indirectly tied to the water plan, but an issue that we may want to, chat about as a collection of state agencies. Thank you.
Lauren, do you want to add that as a agenda item for the next meetings to specifically call that out a little bit?
Sure, let's put that on tentatively, and we can see what other agenda items come up, and if that's still, if we have time for that in the agenda. Another item that we might give an update on, or that hope we might touch on from the water regulation side, we're getting some outside constituent pressure to go back to our levee regulations and take a look at the way that we regulate levees and flood walls across the state. And it becomes kind of the ag versus, environmental perspectives on impacts or benefits from those particular kinds of structures. And so I know Steve Altman and his team are working to advance some efforts there. And so that might be another potential topic for this group to consider. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments, questions?
This is BJ. I just had a question. A while back, probably a month ago, I saw some legislation, and it was on public use of waterways. There were some discussions in other groups on the water task force, and I was just wondering if anybody knew whatever became of that. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, BJ, I think it didn't get out of committee. But I don't think that group has given up.
Okay.
So I believe that issue will continue to be before us. And again, that is another excellent topic area for us to consider perhaps as a task force. We do, I would add that the state water plan does have a recommendation in there for the outdoor access for recreation, to create that and fund that and promote that, which in essence is a departmental or a program approach to providing financial resources to, in essence, lease private property for public access for recreation and other purposes.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, not hearing any. Again, if you'd like to give feedback to me on what we can include either in a future agenda or how this meeting went, feel free to shoot me an email. I appreciate it. I think, Lauren, I think that's all I got for my slides. So unless you'd like to wrap us up with any final comments?
No, thank you, Wes, for taking us through that agenda and your leadership going through that. I think, right, as a task force, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're wanting to kind of get an executive order to more formalize what we are as an official voice in state government and so forth, to have that support behind us. But really encourage, as we did kind of before we, delved into the update of the plan, that it is that opportunity for sharing of what we're doing in the programs, and then for us to, come together as the collection of state agencies focused on water in some way, shape, or form to talk about these kinds of issues and matters like we just started to approach here at the end of this meeting. So I think there's a lot of value and certainly power in what we represent as the collection of agencies speaking together as one voice. So give that some thought, and the task force, as the state water plan is really there as a tool for us to use to help us in our day jobs and really to make state government a little more effective and efficient, at least from the realm of water. So with that, I appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.